All right, welcome everyone to today's Alta Insights webinar. These are our presentations we offer on issues important to title and settlement professionals. I'm Jeremy Yohe, Alta's Vice President of Communications, and today we've got a great webinar lined up to help you learn how to implement AI for various repetitive tasks, help your operation basically become more efficient and let your employees focus on what's important, growing market share, bringing in more business. It's back to school time, which means many of you out there, the parents out there, you're probably either a little sad, maybe a little happy. Either way, stay strong and cheers to another great year. I know we have COVID sprinkled in there, masks, vaccines, just stay strong and support everyone, and we'll keep getting through this. Before getting to the presentation, just have a few housekeeping items to touch on. A copy of today's presentation can be downloaded from the handout section in the GoToWebinar window pane. You'll also get an email tomorrow with a link to the recording, and there'll also be a link to access a copy of the PowerPoint as well. Do need to extend a thank you to Qualia. I'm trying to transition a slide there for sponsoring today's presentation. And before introducing today's speakers, do have a short message from Qualia.
Qualia's digital closing platform is used by thousands of real estate and mortgage companies to provide simple, secure buying, selling, and refinance experiences. Whether you're running a closing for a purchase or a refinance, remote or in person, enjoy an easy and consistent process from order opening to post-closing. Qualia innovates alongside you. Together, we can proudly transform and simplify how homes are bought and sold.
All right, thank you, Qualia, for that message. Let me introduce today's speakers, and we'll get to the presentation. First, we have Hoyt Mann. Hoyt is co-founder and president of Alana. Hoyt has more than 20 years of tech experience, including several years as director of software engineering at RamQuest. Also joining us is Aaron Davis. Aaron is the CEO of Florida Agency Network, a conglomerate of title agencies, settlement service providers, and tech companies. And he's been involved with his company since 2001. And Aaron, I read your bio, and you took over the reins as owner and president from your mother in 2008. So thank you for joining us. And with that, I'll turn the presentation over to you guys, and we'll dig into some AI discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Welcome everyone. We're super excited to be talking about AI here in the title industry. Aaron's with me here, and Aaron sees the need for AI in the title industry, kind of has seized it and has implemented it fully within his organization. Aaron, you want to talk a little bit about what you've been doing as far as AI and maybe how you got interested in it?
Yeah, and to follow up on Jeremy's statement, my mom tricked me into buying the title company from her in September of 2008. If everyone remembers those glory days, the Great Recession was just beginning, so I learned how to lose a lot of money in a short amount of time. And thankfully, we held on and then grew and prospered after that. But growing up in a title agency, I'm currently 45. Oh man, we recorded this thing, so now they're going to know how old I am. I'm 27 years old. Growing up in a title agency, at a time with no technology, go from having no servers, no email, no web, and FedEx was not guaranteed overnight, back in those days. And seeing the progression of where we have come from, literally dot matrix printers and policies and triplicate and typewriters and whiteout to where we are today. I mean, we're talking artificial intelligence in title. All of a sudden, title's like the sexy thing to be in. So who would have thought that we're the cool kids now? It's amazing, where we've come from and where we are now and now where we're going. As Jeremy was talking about, COVID in schools, I said, just bring in the robots and we don't have to worry about that anymore, do we, Hoyt?
That's right. That's right. We can all virtually be at school, with those virtual robots that, you've seen, people basically transporting their way into school.
Yeah, and those are some of the things we wanted to talk about today. It's not, we're none of it. We're all of our jobs are safe. It's not about replacing. And I'm gonna say this a few times today, humans, just to differentiate humans from bots or software or from AI. But we're just talking about our staff as it is today. And truly, it's not just AI, but what technology is allowing us to do is augment the way we work, become much more efficient. I think most of us, the majority of the folks on the call are likely title agents and underwriters. But it's traditionally been a very labor intensive business. When we get flooded with volume, we hire more people, put more butts in seats. But here we are. I'm sure we're all facing the same challenges, right? All simultaneously. A national labor shortage. You can't find people. No one grows up to want to be a title agent. That was probably the last thing I wanted to do. I was thinking more like maybe an astronaut or a lawyer. But man, I got tricked into being a title agent. So here we are. But utilizing the technologies that are out there, and Hoyt and I will talk a lot today about things that are available. Some of the processes that you should be looking at in your agency to potentially add technology and implement some AI or RPA or whatever it may be, just to make you more efficient and get you into becoming the title agent of tomorrow.
It's funny you mentioned, I was thinking back to Jeremy, the introduction, and my days back at RamQuest being the director of engineering there. When I met up with Randall, I remember him, Randall's my co-founder, and Randall talked about driving around Texas in his truck, taking a typewriter off somebody's desk and putting a RamQuest computer on that desk. And that was, one of the first steps toward turning into more of a digital type title company. And then when Randall and I were working together at RamQuest, putting a paperless closer together and putting a website that you could then access title information through the web. And that was some title company's first website ever. And so we continue to see title actually grow from a technology perspective.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it has been a very, I think what's happening in today's world is, title and settlement is finally getting the attention that it's needed for years. And it's mortgage, it's real estate, it's the settlement process. But look at the other industries out there that have applied technology. Look at healthcare. Look at some of the different insurances or auto even. I mean, look at the way Carvana is transforming the auto industry. I mean, now it's, pick out a car vending machine, click a button, and it delivers to your doorstep. I mean, so I think the goal in everything that we do as a real estate industry is get closer toward, click button, buy home. And so I think that's where, adding in the AI component into your processes can certainly get you, going in that direction.
Yeah, and Aaron, to that point, I don't feel like the title industry has a choice not to, for the sake that, as consumers, we're surrounded by AI. I mean, we got robots sweeping our floors.
Yeah.
we got
Well, I'm the janitor here at the network, so I sweep the floors. But
I need to send you a Rumba then.
yes, please do, please do.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think we have a choice, because from a consumer perspective, we are surrounded by AI, and it's invasive in our day-to-day life. And as consumers, I think we, in a B2C type industry, you see AI all around you, and it can help from translating to a B2B experience. And it's expected now that that kind of real time, always available, always have that information no matter where I am, what I'm doing. We have these always connected type situations.
Yeah, and I truly think too, it's an expectation. Look what Amazon, look what all of the other technology companies are now doing with, it's the instant gratification. I mean, we want to click a button and things occur. So I think that we're all going down this path, and it's a great place to be. So I think right now the need for AI is more apparent than ever. And what was here before, like we mentioned, was people doing repetitive tasks. So everything, in a purchase title agency, a contract in the door, it's typing that information from, what was from the contract into your title settlement software. And then from there, before we had a lot of the integrations built into the underwriters, then it was taking that same data and typing it in once again, to get into your underwriter system, or perhaps to order, a lien search, or order any other type of searches that you may need. And then it was entering that data once again. I mean, so every time that you are entering data, you're subjecting yourself to error. And so that was kind of the way it was. And that's where we're at today, that's truly going away.
Yeah, and people aren't, in today's workforce, people aren't satisfied with doing these, for the most part, aren't really excited about doing these repetitive tasks. It decreases job satisfaction, it decreases morale, and ultimately that translates out to clients. Yeah. And so, what do we do to help our employees and still help provide an even higher level of customer service? And that's where I think when we start talking about RPA was a nice gradual step from manual, everything is manual, people driven. Now we've actually started wading into something that we can identify from an operational perspective once we start hitting scale to take it to the next step.
Yeah, and I can tell you, from a personal perspective, I've got two kids, so like my mom did to me, I was hoping to trick them into the title industry. I tell everyone there's only two ways in the title: you're either born into it or tricked into it. I was born into it, so I had no choice in the matter, and I was hoping to do the same with my kids. So my kids are currently 15 and 18 years old, and growing up, they absolutely have grew up in the industry, and they've both worked in the company. And one of them worked in accounting for a couple of summers, and the other one worked in post-closing, doing just some repetitive tasks, literally going in, and whether it be just looking for satisfactions, or releases of mortgage, doing SAT tracking or whatever it may be. And some of it just to kind of keep them busy too. You just want to keep them doing something. And then following up, like, hey guys, what do you think about the family business? And they're like, well, that's boring. I'm like, oh great. Well, how? So if this is my own kids, like, how are we going to go forward? Because you've got to hire. We're all going to have these challenges going forward. Is attracting people into this industry, and I think what attracts them, like Hoyt just spoke about, was getting away from these very mundane, repetitive tasks. And that's then now enter AI and RPA and machine learning into the conversation.
Hey, guys, a lot very technical terms. Could you maybe explain the difference between AI, artificial intelligence, and RPA, and what it is?
Sure. Yeah. I'll take that real quick. So RPA,
Robot.
robot.
Robotic process, sorry, really repetitive.
That's right. So
Robotic process automation, that's right.
robotic process automation. Yeah, thank you. So that it has no intelligence associated to it. It's a series of steps, very static. It's step 1, 2, and 3, and doing that over and over and over again. When we talk about artificial intelligence, now you're taking it up to the next level. So AI, or artificial intelligence, surrounds machine learning. It surrounds, in our world, it surrounds things like natural language processing. And so taking machine learning and natural language processing, mesh those together, and really you're talking about something more intelligent than a step 1, 2, 3, and do that 10,000 times. So Jeremy, you think that that covers?
Yeah,
well, I've got some examples of it too. I think it'll be very helpful.
yeah, because I was going to ask, so, could you share some examples of where you would apply AI versus RPA in a real estate transaction?
Yeah, I've got a few, and I use it let's go in a mortgage application, right? So I'm applying for a mortgage. I've got to enter all of this data. So imagine the person doing this, right? So a person is taking information from a consumer and they're plugging it into a system. And then from that system, now they're going to go to the next system, next software system, and perhaps from there they're pulling a credit history. And then after that, maybe they're doing an additional type of search. And then from there, they're now taking it from one software system to the next and inputting more data. So if you can imagine that's this process, it's click, cut, copy, paste, type, enter, open browser, username, password, download, CSV file, sort, copy, paste, go. So that's what a human typically does in an order entry or in a mortgage application or shoot, even in accounting. You're doing the same thing if it's, if you're reconciling something, you're doing basically the same steps. So what RPA does is you're just programming a bot or a piece of software. That's all it is. A bot is just a piece of software. And I use the example of a playerless piano. You've seen a playerless piano, the keys move, the music comes out, there's just no one in the seat. So the same goes for RPA. The keys move, you could actually see, if you want to just leave the window open, you can see everything happening real time, and it's just a process running over and over and over. The difference is now if you would typically have an RPA process and then overlay AI into that process. So now what happens if one of those processes are broke? What if I was supposed to click this button and all of a sudden that button did not work any longer? RPA wouldn't know what to do and the process would stop. AI would go, okay, well, show me one time what I'm supposed to do next time this occurs. And now I'm going to think, hence the term artificial intelligence. It is now thinking like a person and going, oh, wait, you know what? I just need to click button A instead of button B and I'll still get the same outcome. And so that's where AI and RPA kind of work hand in hand. But AI is actually and I wrote it down, a simulation of human intelligent processes. So it's learning, reasoning, and self-correction. That's AI. Okay. So I think those two are I think the technologies get used, the terminologies probably get used in each other's place quite a bit. Just remember, AI is actually thinking, learning, and changing, and RPA is just a repetitive process.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Great explanation. And yeah, as we're going through the discussion, if you have a question, drop them in the questions box, and we'll pitch them to Aaron and White.
I like to talk about when it comes to AI. I like that intelligent component there, because all too often you have whether you're talking about a bot or you're talking about a searching component, there's a keyword component there, and a keyword that you type in is very static. I mean, if you're looking for that word, you're looking for that series of letters, and if it can't find that series of letters exactly, nothing comes back in a search. So with AI, and the intelligent component is being able to understand what is the intent behind that search. You know, what is intended to happen in Aaron's example. In these series of events, there's an actual end result that's trying to be achieved. And AI then is what we've all come to expect when we talk about Google, and you're putting searches into Google. Not only does it bring back what it thinks you're asking for, but it even gives you suggestions on what else you could have been asking for. And that's really, I think, the essence of, as we talk about intelligence and, you know, being added to our businesses, that's what we're all looking for, is getting away from that static robot that you know, I was just explaining today about, you know, if you dial up a company and it's press 1 for accounting, press 2 for sales, that is a very static route as far as interacting with the company, versus if you talk to a receptionist and say, hey, I have a question about my software, you know, that receptionist understands what you're asking for and then can direct you exactly to where you want to go. So that to me is one of the key differentiators there.
Yeah. Couple questions come in, and Aaron, this is from Wendy for you. Hoyt had mentioned that your company is fully integrated with AI. So Wendy asked, do you actually have any humans? And if so, what do they do?
Wendy, I'm the only one, and I do as little as humanly possible. No, it's not. We have it built in throughout our processes, but it is simply making my staff more efficient. You know, so if you're, you know, everyone uses a metrics, right? So 15 files per person, 20 files per person, 50 files per person, whatever that is, you're trying to increase that productivity. So however you can augment your staff, you know, however you can add tools to help them increase productivity by taking away some of the repetitive processes. So I would say that, you know, in the past, I would have to, and right now today, I would probably have to be carrying about 20 to 25% more staff if I did not implement some of these processes. So we have absolutely gained efficiency, but there will always be the need for us, for people, for the title professionals, because this is a relationship business. You know, there is a marketing and a sales component, and there's absolutely, you know, there's things that we have to make decisions on that AI is just not going to make the right decisions on. And it's using, you know, it's using data. You know, it's using data and analytics, but, you know, as a lot of us know, sometimes we have to go with our gut. So I'll take a human over a bot any day on the gut fact.
Yeah, you mentioned different, you know, parts of the you know, processes that you can look at using AI, and on this slide, you know, there's different spots. Let's walk through some of these, and maybe you could shed a little bit more light, you know, on the sales and marketing. You know, where's the benefit that you're seeing in your company, you know, Aaron? And Hoyt, you work with title companies across the country. If you want to, you know, offer some, you know, information on what you're seeing as well.
Yeah, you know, and Hoyt, I'll kind of tee up, because I'm just going to give the foundational piece of on sales, for instance. You know, but then I want you to talk about how, you know, AI takes that basic information and does something with it. So we're currently using AI to automate our sales processes. So if we're a purchase-based title company, your client is usually bringing you a contract, and that's either representing the buyer or the seller. So I'm in Florida. Typically, it's listing agent is bringing the transaction to us. Once that data is entered, we have an extraction tool that is kind of an overlay, if you will, that is pulling all. So every single day there's you know orders coming in. That means that there is an agent on the other side of the table, so a non-directing client, and that is a lead for us to absolutely follow up on and try to obtain business from. So what we've now built, so using our software, using some extraction tools, using a little bit of OCR and a business analytics, and just know that some software has all of this built in, some does not, and some you have to add some pieces to it. So now in an automated fashion, I have list of information of potential clients that are now fed right into our sales center, that we can either pick up the phone and call, thank them for the business, ask them for another contract, see how we're doing. Or in our case, we're obtaining email addresses and cell phone numbers because we want to simply email or text them, or here's information on our company, and here's some other things that we can do. So Hoyt, tell what we've now done with that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're talking about, in essence, enhanced CRM. So, you want that relationship to continue. And so you want to communicate in the most effective way possible. And how that's done really is, when we talk about communication, it's two-way, right? You want to have conversations. You want to have meaningful conversations, not just, I'm going to blast emails out to a list. You want one-on-one, text communications, and then when somebody responds, that's where you want to have something intelligent on the other end of that response. You just don't want to go into a black hole or be queued up for somebody to address 24, 48 hours later. So all these conversations, all these communications moving back and forth between your clients and your company, it's important. So back to Aaron's point of hiring more staff. So if you want to keep pace with where the market's headed today, the only way to effectively do that in a way that is true to your company is to hire more people that are sitting there waiting for those communications, or sitting there making those communications happen. And again, that's not an efficient way to scale a business, is just continuing to hire more people. So having a little bit of intelligence goes a long way. Having a little bit of a response that can get that message to the right person, from a internal business routing perspective, or just an external communication perspective. So that's key to understanding what's being communicated.
And to kind of go back on to Wendy's question before. So, in the past, this is a person emailing and texting and waiting on replies and perhaps not getting them. And if they are getting them, then having to go back and forth with perhaps some basic information. Instead, what the AI component does is it handles a lot of that entry level conversation, baseline information, and then hands off a hot lead to a human to pick up the phone, to call, to take them to coffee, or do whatever is necessary. So that's where AI in the sales and marketing side is just it's a really great tool.
And embracing that type of process is where the difference can be had in a company. A lot, we just talked about it. We touched on it in a lot of different areas, which is there's a little bit of hesitancy in the marketplace to adopt AI. There's this concept of I'm going to be replaced by robots. And that's been the underlying trend, if you will, in the past maybe 20 years. It's all that we're going to, all of our jobs are going away and are going to be replaced by robots, which is almost the opposite. Is that we're being asked to do more and more every day. And so we talk about people on vacation, they can't get off their phones because they're integral components of a company. We can't unplug, we can't really relax. And the reason that is because our businesses continue to scale, we continue to elevate the level of service that we offer, and then that just doesn't give much time and space for that kind of opportunity to unplug. And that's again where these automations can be really helpful, versus kind of fighting them.
So it sounds like you use this technology to have a fine-tuned orchestra, or a well-oiled football team. I kind of, it was making me think of my healthcare provider. I had a procedure recently, and I got a text, I got an email, and then I got a phone call, all within like minutes. And I'm like, well, that's well done. you know, so I could have interacted with a human. I could have, you know, done it on my phone on the text, or I could have responded to the email and went to my portal and done whatever they wanted me to do. And, you know, it's just, you know, thoughtfully applying this AI to, you know, provide customer service, you know, that left me feeling good that, oh, you know, they are paying attention to my needs. Title company, you're paying attention to your realtor's needs, the home buyer's needs, and, you know, you're communicating, you know, up-to-date information in, you know, the manner they want to receive the information.
Yeah. And Jeremy, real quick, just to touch on that for a moment, is that's what we're hearing a lot, is that people don't really want to be in email or on the phone as much as they'd rather just receive a text or communicate via text. And so that, again, comes back to the point of our businesses are being driven by our clients, and this is what our clients are expecting.
Yeah, and I think a really important part of that too is like Jeremy said, you're getting multiple forms of communication, and everyone wants to interact differently. Some want a phone call, some email, some portal, some text. So you put that information out, and you know, however they want to receive it, and then all of a sudden you're communicating in the manner in which they want, and that's a key piece with the client. But the beauty of AI is no matter which piece it is, as information is flowing back into your system, and it is, you know, automating, it's, you know, checking off tasks in your workflow. A survey just came in, the survey comes in via email, the system detects that, it drops and drags it into the file, and all of a sudden the AI, if you're interacting via text and the client says, hey, I'd like a copy of my survey, it hits the database, pulls it, and here you go. So, you know, what we found is, you know, once we started to implement on the communication side, I'm gonna say the virtual assistant side, if you will, we've reduced our phone call volume by approximately 40%. Because most people calling into a title agent are just, you know, looking for a handful of things. They're asking about, you know, perhaps they're closing, or I need to give you some additional information, and here's the information on my payoff, or whatever that may be. So if you have technology being proactive and gathering that information and dragging it back into the system and completing tasks, that's going to result in less communication and, you know, ultimately a happier consumer experience.
Have you seen an uptick in consumers reaching out to your title company and asking questions about their transaction? That's an interesting piece because, you know, over the decades, you know, title companies have kind of, you know, been behind the scenes, haven't been out front and, you know, having that communication interaction with the consumers. So I'm kind of intrigued if you are seeing more volume from consumers, or if it is on the realtor side, they have questions that they're asking on behalf of their customer.
I would say yes. I mean, especially if you're in a you know, new home buyer situation, or if it's a newer real estate agent, and you know, and let's be real. And sometimes with the newer real estate agents, it's not a full-time job just yet. So they may be working elsewhere and then just, you know, following up in the evenings on information. So what we find with adding the technology component to it, we're answering their questions for them before they ask. So there is still the, you know, all the same questions are out there, but now we're answering them before they ask, and it's not always a human that has to answer it. If it's a text, if it's an email, whatever it is, it's just automating information back and forth. And especially very simple things like here's a copy of your payoff, here's a copy of your survey. Yes, I need you to bring $2,148.81 to closing. You know, reading the information off of the settlement statement to provide to the buyer. That, you know, that's just some information. That does not necessarily require someone to think about it.
So quick question, if, you know, I'm closing with your title company, and, you know, so would I be given like a phone number or something? It's like, so if I want to text, like, you know, you guys, whoever's handling my closing, like, when's my closing? Would it be like an automated response that would, you know, it would identify my phone number, and so it'd be able to then answer my question? Pretty much.
Yeah, and Hoyt can speak onto it, but yes, it is tying a cell phone record in the database to the client's cell phone, and it is, you know, it is immediately recognizing that number and then being able to talk intelligently about that file.
Yeah, long ago are the days that we at one point we had these web portals around that were, the way that somebody'd have to go to log in, username, password, dig around and try to find this information. Now we're in a day to where I'm going to talk to text on my phone, and it's going to go to that phone number and get that information. And there's no username, there's no password. They know who I am. I expect my title company to know who I am. I'm giving them business, and I'm expecting a certain level of service. And again, for either me as a real estate agent, in lieu of my client, and it comes back down to, Jeremy, you'd mentioned about all these different ways you get notified, and that's great. That's one-way communication. What we encourage, or from Aaron's perspective, is a conversation. I mean, everybody, there is two ways to this. It's not just hey, by the way, it's here's some information, and here's your, ask about the next step. So encouragement, because truthfully, we talked about this and we touched on it. Adoption of technology, especially new technology, can be scary. It can be there's some hesitancy there. And I think when we look at business as a whole, one of the classic business cases that we can all look at is Blockbuster versus Netflix. Think back to where Blockbuster was, and they didn't take signals from the marketplace, and now where are they at? So we're living in a Netflix world, but we always talk about, are you Blockbuster or are you Netflix? Where do you want to be?
Yeah, definitely, two-way, street conversation, and a well-informed home buyer leads to a much better closing experience. And essentially, this comes down to, manipulation, share, might be the right word, but sharing of data, storing and using data to communicate with the person who's asking the question. Talking about data, how can AI, and this comes from Richard, he asked, how can AI help to enhance security? If you have this data and you're using it, are there security issues? All right, Aaron, go ahead.
Oh, me. I've got that one, Jeremy. All right, so we have a piece of software that is it's a cybersecurity software that it integrates into Outlook, and it now reads all of the incoming emails as received. And what it is doing, it is finding and quarantining spam emails. So things that look not correct, as a phishing email attempt. We're all getting the settlement statement coming. Some title company looks like it's sending us information and then trying to trick us into opening it, or it looks like a closing package coming in. So enter AI into cybersecurity, and it automatically reads, detects, quarantines, and alerts your IT team to review that email to see if it's right or wrong. And once they check it off that, no, this is a good email, well, now the software knows next time it sees it that it's okay. And vice versa, if it's bad, then now every time it sees something similar to that, it'll immediately quarantine it. Additionally, how it augments our humans is that we also have an add-in button. So if one of our staff sees something that's a little bit fishy, if one staff member saw it, then 40 other of them got it as well. So they're going to click a button to automatically quarantine that suspicious email to allow IT to review it and then give it, a green flag or a red flag. So yeah, that was just one example. That was just one example, but yeah, that was great question.
So Amanda was curious, the IT company that you use for this. She said they use Mimecast. That's a pretty popular one.
Yeah, there's one there, and there's several. I mean, the one that I'm talking about is specifically was Iron Scales. It's an add-in, and I think there's a company that. I don't know if that's the actual software or the company, but I know that's what was on my Outlook button when I was writing down my notes this morning.
Yeah, and you mentioned if it's you get like bulk emails from an email server, and it gets identified and put into it's blocked. Also we had that issue because as everyone who's on the call, we send out lots of emails. And then all of a sudden I'm getting, getting contacted by people like, Jeremy, we haven't got an email from Alta in months. And, when people would switch over to Mimecast, we had some problems that we had to work through to start getting our emails to make it to their destination.
So Jeremy, did you receive that $10,000 I sent you this morning? Because it said that you were in another country and you needed help. So I was hoping you're okay.
I'm not sure if I'm okay. It's still to be determined, but yeah. I had another question from Tina, and she was curious if you guys are seeing tech companies entering the title space with AI platforms, or if Aaron, you're back there coding and developing all these things yourself.
There is absolutely a ton of them.
There absolutely is, and all these problems. There's plenty of problems to be had, and there's some really smart folks out there looking to solve these problems, and we're seeing it from. I see it almost every day. I was just at a conference yesterday where I was watching some great technology. AI is being applied, data is being analyzed, and patterns are being identified. As Aaron was talking about, from a cybersecurity perspective, those patterns are being identified through machine learning, and then actually being able to put AI on top of that to make decisions. And that's the key component here when we talk about AI. It's the, as I was mentioning earlier, which is all about the learning and then the intelligence on top of that. And so, there's the beauty, again, the part that I just love so much about this industry, about the AI, and about title in general, but is that it's growing, it's evolving, and for AI to be effective, it's got to be learning, it's got to be fed data, and it's got to evolve, and that's where the power comes in. And the more data that you have, the better your solution is going to be. And as Aaron's just mentioned about the emails, every click of bad or good, green or red, is just adding to that knowledge base, adding to that brain, if you will. We always talk about this brain that's being created, and I laugh and I describe that as technology, AI technology in general, goes from a baby to a toddler and continues to grow because of the learning that's involved, and that's key.
And I think it's what's really interesting too from an agent's perspective is seeing the different solutions and the different problems that are being solved for. And every piece of technology, every tech company seems to be solving for something. So for instance, we're all seeing kind of the underwriter solutions, some of the instant search and exam functionality, and truly what that is some of that is OCR. Right, so it's using OCR, scanning a document, but let's say that we scan an old deed, and you get that OCR readout, and it looked like a B, or maybe it was an 8, or maybe it was a 3 with an I next to it. So OCR and even RPA would just whatever's red, that's what it's going to use. AI, because it would look further into the doc stack and go, wait. It looks like it was a 3 because on the mortgage it was a 3, on this affidavit it was a 3, on this other recorded document in the chain was a 3, so therefore it's a 3, and we can make that determination. So that's where OCR and AI work hand in hand as well.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about how a title company can use AI to communicate outwardly with customers. How about a little bit of internally and some processes that can be AI can be applied in your operations, HR and accounting, Aaron?
Yeah, HR is a big, a big piece of AI right now. So HR. Let's take the recruiting side of it. I think most of us here are on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is nothing but a huge AI engine because it's reading all of our profiles and and giving us all job opportunities. But in the recruiting world, it's used heavily. I mean, so it's reading resumes, it's looking at past job histories, and if I just say, hey, I'm looking for a title escrow officer with 2 years of experience who's familiar with ABC software, that's where, a lot of this AI is being used, is to just read all of these resumes and information and detailed information to be able to, give us all suggestions. It's also in the HR side of things. It's making suggestions of hey, you know what? Maybe this person is better suited for this task than the other. By looking at some of their some of their responses. If your company is doing regular surveys, to your staff, we're always trying to make sure that client happiness and culture. We're following up on all of these closings to our clients and internally too. But capturing that data and actually doing something with it. And then that's where AI is absolutely helping on the HR front. Not to mention, there are absolutely programs that if you have to terminate an employee, that it will automatically go out, change their password, update your payroll system, send out an automated email to their home address saying thanks for being with us, and make sure to give us back your laptop one day.
So you could have your staff, do a personality test, and then you use that data to say, oh, Hoyt should be a closer instead of examining title.
Exactly. We don't want to know what Hoyt's readout's going to be.
I might get that termination letter. Who knows?
I would actually absolutely get fired from my own company.
All right. The last one on this slide is post-closing. You maybe talk a little bit on how you've used this, AI in this part of the, you've got the deal closed, and what are you using here?
Yeah, some of the solutions that we've seen and have implemented a few is once that closing's done, I think that's one of the I think we all look at post closing the same. It's $0 productive activity, because we made the money at the closing table. Everyone else got paid, and now we've got to do a lot of work behind the scenes. So we're scanning files. Use of technology allows, when those files are scanned, you put 200 pages on a scanner bed, and technology is automatically separating out the lender packages from the buyer package, seller package, title docs, settlement statement, etc. And then we'll sort and route it where it needs to go. So if it needs to be recorded, it's automatically, pushing into your recording platform. If there is the ability to grab the, a lot of the recording platforms already have the integrations built in, so it is grabbing the buyer's name, dragging it into the index field to be able to properly record those documents. But then you got policy production after that as well. So what is policy production? I mean, we're going in, looking in public record for some information and dragging, dropping, copy, cut, copy, text, paste, type, information, and that's where RPA, AI, and a lot of the technology is absolutely helping out in the post-closing world.
Do you think this could help, title companies using this to help lenders, get liens, released and mortgage, satisfied? Is this an issue where AI could be helpful here as well?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think what we've seen is there's a few platforms out there now that will issue a trigger. There's a trigger of, I'm a lender, I just recorded my mortgage, my closing is done, and I absolutely want to know if my borrower has stopped making their car payment, has a lien now filed against the home, any of those things that may or may not be detected on the credit report history. Maybe credit report doesn't pick up on it for a little bit, but AI and tech could absolutely detect that in public records and issue a triggering email or a triggering event for something else to occur.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got about 10 minutes to go. Hoyt or Aaron, people on the call, they probably, wanting to learn about AI, maybe don't have, implemented it, just starting. Where should they target first? What part of their operation do you think they should, chew off first if they want to, implement something?
Well, I'll kind of tee up Hoyt here. I think the communication piece of it, if you want to gain immediate efficiency and see dollar savings, I would look at the communication side of things first. because that is going to bring immediate customer satisfaction. And it's like I said, I've already seen a 40% reduction in call volume when we implemented the communication tool in our operation. The aha moment for us was, we have 200 employees, and it was a Friday at the end of the month. We had just implemented AI, and we looked behind the scenes and saw 37 simultaneous conversations being had via text, email, or using AI. That's 37 employees not on the phone, not using up their time. So you now just take 37 employees at 5 minutes of payroll. Now you see the savings. That's where me personally, that's where I begin. And Hoyt, you can probably speak more to that.
I'd say the same thing. It's all about communications, and it's about communicating when nobody's around. To me, that is the other side of it. Yes, you got your staff busy, but communications on the platform that your clients are on, and we just talked about post-closing, but to me, post-closing is your first step to your next deal. And so therefore, sending out communications and thanking people for their business, and then having that relationship to start the next deal. So it's communications, and sometimes it's hard to get to that handwritten thank you letter that that we would all want to give to our clients. But again, communications is key.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the other, there's a whole list of things that people are tackling right now. CD prep, using AI to be able to fill in a settlement statement, and then all that is grabbing data from here, putting it in the field, clicking send, goes to the lender, gets approved, come back. So that's a piece that AI is absolutely being used in: policy production, order entry, network security, email management, all of those things. Anyone who's using Microsoft Outlook or 365, if you're using the Cortana, I think it's Cortana, all of a sudden I get a daily, or I get an email every single morning with Cortana giving me suggestions of what to do. Well, what do you think that is? That's Microsoft AI, absolutely reading all of our stuff and trying to be a little more helpful. And at times it is. It's like, oh wow, I did send that person that email 2 days ago, and I totally forgot about that I was supposed to follow up on that. Not that I ever forget anything on follow up, but Cortana AI saves me.
Yeah, definitely. Big brother looking over your shoulder, making sure you're following through it.
Absolutely.
Like any other technology, there's always kind of an implementation timeline. Hoyt, what could a title company expect? Like, okay, we want to, get this communication piece installed. Is it like, downloading some software and you're fired up and ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It really comes to, again, I've talked about this concept of technology evolving, and to me, a realistic time frame is within 30 days. You can have these communication technologies in place, but then it's evolving. You're just not going to eat the whole elephant in one sitting. There's an evolution that happens, and I think that's where technology is best implemented, is when you basically take pieces and you implement them, and then you continue to have an approach to where you look at it, you take the next step, you implement that, see that success, and continue to take steps. And I call it, it's just a classic crawl, walk, run strategy that ultimately gets you to achieving those efficiencies that you can realize whenever you take on a piece of technology, and that goes pretty much all across the board.
Aaron, you mentioned, when you had the chat bot and there were like 37 conversations, you could have 37 employees on the phone. So, so you have the chat bot and you're using it. Do you still have is there like a central, staff person that's kind of like overseeing that, or, how does that get funneled through?
Yeah, we do have, especially in the initial stages, you have to have someone, monitoring the conversations, but you're seeing, for the most part, you're seeing just, the flow of information happening properly. When we first release it, great story. A lot of my friends are real estate agents. So one of them would they all of a sudden we sent out these updates via text, and it says, is there anything else that we can help you with, or is there anything else, any other questions you'd like to ask about your closing? And one of the realtors said, what's Aaron wearing today? So we come back with a cute comment, jean shorts and flip flops. So you're able to interact with your clients that way, and even with Alana, and we'll answer a joke. So there is that human element to technology that you can absolutely add and enjoy. And like I said, it's learning as you go as well. So I'm still old school. I call it a HUD. I don't know about all the CD and Alta stuff. It's a HUD statement. Well, guess what? The technology can read that as well. So though someone may ask for a HUD the first time and it may not know what it is, the next time it encounters it, it absolutely knows, oh, a HUD is a CD. Okay, here's what they're looking for.
One thing I'd mention as well is that, as we're talking about this kind of technology, it's putting some personality and being able to there's, once upon a time it was a chatbot, and now we're calling them virtual assistants because there's some intelligence. And oh, by the way, they can have a personality and they can tell jokes, and and can be confused for a real human. And then next thing you know, they're getting texts in the middle of the night of asking different questions or things of that nature that can provide some humor. So yeah, so it's a fun time, but we're kind of rolling with it all.
So it's kind of like Alexa, tell me a joke, right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, there's a semblance of a personality that's creating, and that we see that across the board with our customers. We see the different personalities coming out from these companies and how they present themselves in the marketplace.
Well, and that's important. This is still a relationship industry, and people want to do business with people, they like, and, that, can have fun, and relate to you. So, Aaron may, then if I was interacting, he would maybe interject something about Florida giving, a beat down to Ohio State, in football. That was inside joke, everyone.
We'll train the database to recognize Jeremy's cell phone next time he calls in, and we'll absolutely give him heck about OSU.
So, I mean, you guys have said it's constantly learning technology. How granular can these questions get? If someone asks, what is Schedule B on the policy? I mean, could it get that specific?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we get into FAQs is the first level, and that's that information might be on all of our websites is general FAQ type information, and then when you get down to another level, then you start getting into something more specific, so we can get very granular, and that's where the power comes in. One thing is just indexing information on a website is step one, but when we get to step 15, we're pulling some very detailed information and understanding. Again, as I'm a client, I want the title company I'm interacting with to know more about me than just a generic phone call coming in. I want them to really have context around me as a client. And again, Aaron treats me as a top tier producer. So, I appreciate that, Aaron.
You're welcome, Hoyt. And I will say that, the one thing that did strike me is looking at those call logs from all of that communication. The comment that came in most that was shocking to me was thanks. Was the client texting back thanks because they thought they were talking to one of our staff.
Yep. And then thumbs up emoji.
Right, you get a thumbs up.
All like the thumbs up emoji. So, all right. Well, Aaron and Hoyt, great conversation, and thanks for spending some time with us today. If we didn't get to your question, feel free to reach out to Hoyt or Aaron. They're happy to answer your questions, help you out with any AI needs that you may have. As a reminder, today's presentation was recorded. You'll get an email tomorrow with a link to the recording and to get a copy of the presentation. And to wrap up, I need to thank Qualia once again for sponsoring today's webinar. Hoyt, Aaron, thanks again for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you live or on the road here sometime soon, possibly Alta One in New Orleans.
Yep. Sounds good. Look forward to it. All right. Thumbs up.
Let's see.
Thumbs up. All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.